Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I'm Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. On again today. First, with an interview with Joel Walsh that went very, very well. Check it out. And now, today, we are becoming Stoic. Little surprise, though, Elizabeth Masters had some personal things that she had to take care of and will not be with us today. So we are gifted, truly gifted, with someone that is already a Stoic, already an artisan of the spirit. We have Shadow Fox. Hello.
Surprise! since it's the football season, so on and so forth. I guess I'm just the punter here.
She's more like the quarterback. Don't let her kid you. Okay. So how are you doing this wonderful, beautiful day?
Actually, I am just ecstatic just to breathe. I mean, I had family come up for a couple of days, and it was really nice to get back together. I mean, it really was. It was nice.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so on becoming stoic, today we're going to start delving into Rene Descartes' meditations on the first philosophy. Now, what we're going to cover today is the synopsis of the meditations. So, we're not going to get into the actual readings of Rene Descartes. This is more or less the author of the book and all that, John Veach,
Okay,
okay, is given his translation of his synopsis of the meditations.
gotcha.
So, the first meditation, I'm going to read the first synopsis is about the first meditation. Um, In the first meditation, I expound the grounds on which we may doubt, in general, of all things, and especially of material objects, so long at least as we have no other foundations for the sciences than those we have hitherto possessed. Okay.
Okay,
So, to kind of break this down, okay, I expound the grounds on which we may doubt in general of all things. All right. So let's begin with that. Um, Everything that is around us, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Okay. We don't doubt that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, but is the earth round? Is the earth flat? What is the sun? What is it? We can't touch it. We can't feel it. So where do our doubts come in when we're looking at things like that?
I think the moment we start to have that feeling, that integration between who we are, who others are, how we kind of relate to others or to our environment, such as the stars, the sun, the trees. um I think it when you kind of study that, when you step into that flow, so to speak, I think it creates those thought processes in us that we try to find where the relevance is, I think. And I think whether we create that self doubt within ourselves, because, like, well, who are we, right? We take a breath. That self doubt can step into or manifest in different fractions or fractional aspects of fear. Like, am I good enough? Am I, would I be able to be a CEO of this business? Starting from the ground up. And people don't just step into something, there's a little preparatory stuff. So I think that when we're looking at doubt in those components, it, I think, establishes that creativity aspect where we start asking questions and see, like, we put them in like little checks and balances. Like, is this registering? Is this resonating with what I think I already know? And then sometimes that what I think I already know kind of gets completely different.
Right, right. No, exactly, exactly. And in this same sentence, he further expounds, and especially of material
Yep,
objects,
yep,
so long at least as we have no other foundations for the sciences than those we have hitherto possessed.
yep,
And I think this first meditation is more aimed at the things that we can touch.
yep.
Are they? Do we just take them for granted, or do we ever doubt how real they are? You know, the things that we can put our hands on, the things that we can smell, the things we can taste, the things that we can hear, see, feel. Do we ever doubt those things? I mean, do you ever doubt those things?
I come at it from maybe a little different perspective. Maybe when you're looking at, say, if I can say the word, give me a second here, minimalistic. Um, for instance, I require a car, but I don't require a Ferrari. Okay, so I think when we doubt, we can also look at doubting where is the values that we place upon these things. Yes, we can touch. We have a computer, obviously, and we have a computer. We're doing this segment, but is it an actual requirement? Would my life completely change if I didn't have it? Probably. Would I be able to cope with it? Oh, absolutely. I don't have to be on the internet. I don't have to be on a telephone. You know, um, so I think when we look or place a value for those objects, that's part of where I think illusions, um, the illusionary aspect. It's almost like reality bites, right? So many people, I think, will focus on the attainment of things such as money or prestige or positions,
Mm-hmm.
right? In a sense, they are a part of like an object, they're like a position. Um, so I think, I don't know, I think my view is a little bit different, because the material, I think, is what he's looking at, in doubting, like, in a sense, does he really, really require it? Is it something he's going to give his all to go get? Is there, how important is it to somebody to really own a Ferrari? Does it change who you are? Does it have four tires? Does it get you there? Does it offer you comfort, or does it give you, the racing ability, prestige, picking up chicks, man?
Right,
I
right.
mean, what's your take on that? I mean, as far as as far as that goes, I mean, the material, the material aspects are not who we are.
Right, exactly. Um, See, I'm at a advantage here is because I've read it. I know
Yeah,
exactly.
I haven't read it,
Right.
so sorry,
Well,
guys.
that's okay. Where it's going. So, I think he's looking more into how we perceive things,
Yeah.
just as existence itself.
Yes.
You know, the phone, we know it exists because we can touch it, we can see it, we can feel it.
Right.
And of course, this is going to deliver beyond other things, as you go through the meditations where we question things like our mind, and our
Yes.
body and the attachment, God, the things that we can't see and we feel or claim to feel, or whatever the situation may be, the experiences that we tend to go through. And I think that's going to go more into, like with the second meditation.
Okay.
In the second, the mind, which in the exercise of the freedom peculiar to itself,
Yep.
okay, freedom peculiar to itself,
Mhm.
supposes that no object is of the existence of which it has even the slightest doubt, finds that meanwhile it must itself exist.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, because we use the mind. We can't touch it, we can't feel it,
right.
but we're using it to recognize the existence of whatever it is that we can see and touch.
And there's a part I think that he's also touching on in a roundabout aspect of actually manifesting, um, because that object exists. Now, whether it exists in your hand, or it exists at the store, or it may have been someone's conceived perception, right? Somebody had to think of it, somebody had to create it in their mind first before it really came to this realization and everything was modified. I mean, I was watching a show the other day and like two cops, okay? And it was back, I think, made maybe in the 80s, and they had one of those cell phones and it came in a little box. He's carrying this box around
Mhm.
with the phone, and I'm like, oh, click, like, I gotta call somebody. Um, so cell phones, like even when you take a look at how the transformation of that was made, it was a conceived thought. Somebody created that in their mind.
Yes.
And so if there was doubt, would if that person or people that came together like as a common goal to actually make cell phones available, if there was doubt in that, do you think that maybe if it didn't happen then, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't have happened in the future? So right now, in the year we are, 2023, we could have been behind the eight ball and just been now carrying that little box with a great big huge phone,
Right.
big, right?
Right.
So I think I like the points that are made in there when he ties it back in to our thought processes, how we are thinking, because our thoughts will create our realities, and our thoughts will manifest based upon how those thoughts and emotions are um, being worked through.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
And
that's just my opinion, but yeah.
well, no. Well, let's take it. Let's go back to Star Trek. Captain Kirk,
Yep.
Spock. Okay,
Yes.
and look at when it was created. All right,
Yep.
they had the little flip gadget where they could talk to each other.
Mhm.
Okay, that was a space age dream back then. And what do we have now?
A lot of them. The only thing I'm still waiting for the beam me up, Scotty.
And I swear it's coming and all that. There's this product called Canna where they take molecules from the air and
Okay.
actually can make any drink that you want.
Ooh.
So we're already headed towards the process of a replicator.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm
You
going to
learn something new every day.
telling you, I'm going to continue on.
Okay.
Um, and this point is likewise of the highest moment, for the mind is thus enabled easily to distinguish what pertains to itself, that is, to the intellectual nature, from what is to be referred to the body.
Yes. Well, mind is the builder. Truly. I mean, mind is the builder. What we think, we become. As a mind can conceive and perceive, there's so many different quotes and things all across the board, but there's an accuracy with it.
Yes. Oh, definitely, and all that, because it's like the body doesn't do what it wants to do. We use our mind to control the body.
Yeah.
And yet, the body does do what it wants to do in other aspects that we're just not conscious of. Like, I don't have to sit here and think, breath in,
Right.
breath out, breath in, breath out, heartbeat, pump, pump, pump. It does it on its own. I don't have to consciously think about my body to do those things. It just simply does. So, does my body have its own mind that's working by itself?
Actually, I could say that our body has an active intelligence. and it is a definitely it is a phrase. We use it in esoteric philosophy for the most part, or understanding thereof. Um, yeah, it is definitely. I mean, our mind can tell our body to remain sick, and it will. Our
Yes.
body, our body, because you're talking about like that part of the autonomic nervous system. Okay, fight and flight, our breath work. It's the heartbeat. These are the things that go on without our conscious thought.
Hmm.
Okay, well, our stomach starts to get empty and it sends signals to our brains, and I'm hungry or I'm thirsty or boy, oh boy, I have, I really have a hankering for something to eat, right?
Right.
But in actuality, it's even more powerful than that because we can truly, through our mind, through our intent, we can literally bring homeostasis to our physical bodies and create that healing by removing energy blocks.
Yes.
I mean, and so I'm speaking in from one frame of thought, but they're all tied together. And
Right.
I'm just expressing it slightly different. So mind is the builder. The mind really is like that powerhouse of, it gives the body the signals and the body will react. So it's like we really do have, in a sense, let's just say, a governance over our bodies if we choose to realize it, become aware of it, and not doubt it.
Yes. I was going to say, because you brought up like the growling of the stomach. It's not you saying, hey, I'm hungry. It's your body saying to you, hey, I need energy. Get me something.
Yep.
Okay. I need water. I need food. I need this. I need vitamins. I need minerals. I need all these things. And I specifically need vitamin C, so I'm craving something orange. So give me something orange. And you're going, God, I could really use a glass of orange juice right now. Was it you who thought that, or was it your body who said, hey, you need orange juice, get some now because you need this to keep you strong? So,
Do Paul, I got to tell you something. It kind of triggered a memory for me. And when I was pregnant with my first child, it was like January. I was
mhm,
pregnant and I was really getting cravings. And let's just say that watermelon for where we lived was really like not, not in season. And I had this, and it was like my husband was kind of like, I know I cannot come home without watermelon. I am not going to be welcome. I mean, she's not going to be able to be lived with. And yeah, and sometimes those cravings, so to say, especially for pregnant women. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to speak for every single woman on the planet, but I think we all kind of know what we're talking about when we say we have a craving. Do not come home without it. If you forget it, don't even bother opening the door. Just turn around. And if you have to drive down like to the other end of the country to go get it, then okay. All right.
yes, yes. Now, just to let everybody know, the second synopsis is like 2.5 pages long, and we're
Oh,
just basically covering just the beginning part of the synopsis,
okay.
because as you go through the synopsis, it breaks it down in even more. Which, when we actually go through each chapter, next week when Elizabeth is back,
Okay.
you're going to see how much of a greater depth we actually go into in breaking this down
Mhm.
and what Rene Descartes was actually thinking and trying to bring forth for people to understand.
Yes.
So, with that, I'm going to go to the third
Okay.
synopsis. In the third meditation, I have unfolded at sufficient length, as appears to me, my chief argument for the existence of God.
Mm.
But yet, since I was there desirous to avoid the use of comparisons taken from material objects, that I might withdraw, as far as possible the minds of my readers from the census. Numerous obscurities perhaps remain, which, however, will, I trust, be afterward entirely removed in the replies and the objections. Now, replies and objections is other philosophers basically and other people responding to Rene Descartes with his theories. So, basically, what we're looking at here is his chief argument is for the existence of God.
Mm.
Okay. So, since that is his main belief, and now he's got to step away from it, how do you come back and relate this belief system that you have without using the things to try to prove what you want?
I think I think inaccuracy is in the eye of the beholder, and I think it comes down to where we literally question everything as a macro and the micro aspects. Is there, does God exist? And why would there have to be proof? Um, if if there is no God, are we okay with that? When we break down belief systems, and this is one of the things that even in a lot of the format for what Lee Tuhawks and I bring forward is to question every single belief you have. Beliefs are learned. It's something that whether you read something in a book and you went, oh yeah, it sounds pretty good. Okay, yeah, yeah, there's something that I can jump on board with that. But you, if you can't take a belief and break it down to its minute components, where did it come from? Who said it? Why does somebody say that it is so? If
Mm-hmm.
these things are not literally thought of, and again, we can go back to mind, mind being that builder, right? That doubt where we create all these questions and we're trying to find out that is there an existence or isn't there an existence? Um, each individual truly has to come to that foundation of understanding, to each their own. Because
Correct.
what works for me may not work for you, Paul. But, but if you and I come together and kind of compare notes and say, well, I don't believe because of this, or I believe because of that, or I'm stepping away and I'd like to see your side. If you cannot put your own personal belief, on hold for a moment, how can you hear someone else's side? Just listening to it does not mean you have to take anything hook, line, and sinker and make it your own. However, the moment you start to ask these questions, whether it be nature, like we can go all the way back to the very beginning when we started this, seeing that aspect of the nature of our own, the environment that we are in, all of these things can really bring integral parts to create an understanding. For instance, I was raised Roman Catholic very young, and of course, there is a Christian burial. Well, the church kind of adopted that and put that into their dogma, to their theologies, and they continually, after generation, perpetuated that forward. Why? Why is it that it has to be a Christian? You have to be buried and it has to be sanctified. Why? Go back to Constantine. Study Constantine and find out what happened with that and how that was changed.
Right.
Again, it's a there was a ruler that decided to bring unison or unity to a common understanding. And guess what? If you did not bury your loved ones, you're dead, you were executed. Your head was cut off. Now you're going to believe? So the church came in to help modify that for the peasants, the pagans, or sorry, excuse me, the pagans and everything else. No, you're going to believe the way we like you to believe. So
Mhm.
where is there a God in this?
Yeah, there isn't. That's just it. Because
You know,
see, this is one of the things that if you believe in something, why is it so important that someone else must believe as you do?
exactly.
Why is it so
Yep.
important to you that
Yep.
someone else believes what you believe in? Because you don't want to be alone in this belief? Is that it? Because you
Uh,
want,
You know what that comes down to, Paul? I don't mean to cut you off, but it truly is. People will step in to defend a position regardless of anything.
hmm
Why? Because it is a belief. It resides within your chakras. Beliefs reside within the chakras. And once we adopt and incorporate a belief, beliefs can be changed. Come on, I used to believe in the Easter Bunny.
yeah,
What a rude awakening that was when I figured out that there was no Easter Bunny. So, you
yeah,
know, so beliefs can and do change over time from generation to generation.
right,
Um, but it is, Paul, it's because people defend a belief because they have not necessarily questioned everything in those first two uh, aspects that we had just spoken about, where
right.
we are doubting. So, in a sense, there's a doubt. Well, I'll be okay. I'm not going to doubt it if, Paul, if you believe exactly the way I do and you can jump on board, man, I'm going to feel real good about myself and I don't have to do any work.
Right.
I don't have to look. I don't have to question. I'm just going to go, yep, I'm going to be buried. I'm going to be a Christian burial. Why?
hmm
Because it's been told to me.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. You know,
So, if God exists, or if there's an omnipresence, or if there are many gods, the number
hmm
one thing that I come down to, and this is, whether it's a formulation of me, whether it is a belief system, it's just I see everything as energy, and I see it as laws, and God, or let's just say a field, the field of energy is in all of it. And so, therefore, I just don't believe in a God the way perhaps other people
right.
portray it to be. Like male, well, we can ixnay that. How about a female? Well, we could also ixnay that too.
hmm
Could it be both? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I carry both male and female energy, and to me, that would make kind of sense.
Right. Right. No, I get that. See, my biggest thing when it comes to any kind of, whether it be a philosophy, whether it be a religion, whether it be, a sect, whatever it is, when you come to me and you're forcing it down me, saying you have to believe this because let me put it another way. If you're a Christian coming to me saying, if you don't believe in what I believe in, you're going to hell.
Yep, fear. Yep, fear factor. Jump on board.
So how about if I come back at you? Well, if you don't believe in Allah, you're going to the Muslim hell.
Yeah.
How do you know your hell is real
Yep.
and my hell isn't? Or
Well,
how do you know
reality
my
bites.
hell isn't real? And it's just like
Yep.
I kind of look at it this way: when people talk about how they feel and the energy they feel, the things that resonate within them is what they should go with.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where, you know, as we get into especially the third meditation with Rene Descartes, we're going to see how his attachment with his God becomes a problem throughout his philosophy because he can't detach himself. And the
From
whole idea is to let go of all your beliefs
yeah.
and to reanalyze what is. Okay. Again, I doubt, therefore I think. I think, therefore I am.
Yes.
What's within me? I
Yep.
mean, again, for all the things that his mind was so grand,
Hmm.
some things he just couldn't let
Couldn't
go.
get. And again, this is where it comes down to, because if he were truly to release that belief, or even just set it aside for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
that part of the knowingness of who he was, who I am, really comes to the forefront, which would establish perhaps, perhaps a different view. Therefore, it would have the rays or of consciousness, like an expanded view.
Mm-hmm.
When we can step more into an expanded view and see all sides of a situation, I guarantee you, there's for any situation that comes up in your life, I guarantee you, there's not just one or two ways to look at it.
Correct.
There are multiple. And so, there's three times three, and we can continue going on with this. So, the moment our perception shifts into that aspect or resonance that carries just some checks and balances, I think, can really open our eyes to allow us to challenge some of these things that we, you know, had accepted. I mean, Paul, I've heard you speak before about a religion that, kills babies and so on and so forth. And it's like, where's the love? Is there love in that? I mean,
Right.
so again, was that part of religion's history? Yeah. What it the here's an oxymoron for you. Holy war.
Yeah.
Hello? Like, has anybody broke that down? Have we really thought about that? Is this where we bring in part of critical thinking? We cannot be separate from critical thinking. If we do not have this part of the thought processes in place, then we can go down many, many rabbit holes.
Yes.
And we can be led astray, and we can, come on, let's drink the purple Kool-Aid even.
Yep.
Jim Jones, by the way.
Yep. Now,
I mean,
I'm gonna give you something here, because it's what you brought up, and I want to give another perspective on it so that
mhm,
maybe people can see this in a better way.
yeah,
All right. There's this giant cube. It's sitting in the middle of town square.
okay.
Right.
I was thinking, is that like the Borg?
But
The moment you said a cube, I'm like, okay, the Borg.
I want you to think about this. There's
Okay,
this giant cube. It stands 50 feet high. It's in the middle of town square. And there's 4 roads that come into town. All right.
okay,
And all these people are coming in from a different road. The
yeah,
road coming from the north, when they come into the center of town, they see a yellow cube sitting in front of them. The people from the south, they see a green cube. The people from the west, they see a red cube. The people from the east see a blue cube.
mhm,
All of them are correct in what they see.
mhm.
Why is this?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't be able to answer that one. You know why? Well, I could answer it, but I would definitely see the cube from the north being white. I would see the cube on the west would be yellow, the south would be red, and the west would be black. I know where you're going with that, but that would just be the indigenous colors that I
Yes.
go from. So again, how did we learn that, right?
Right.
This is
The reason why everybody sees a different color is because on the side that they're facing, that's the color it's painted.
okay. Well, mine's white. North is white.
Yep. I'm just saying, where you were saying that people see things from a different way, a different perspective, everybody could be looking at exactly the same
Same
thing
thing.
and have a completely different view of what it is,
Hmm.
what color it is, what the bottom line is that everything on the inside of the cube is exactly the same.
Same. Hey, you left out one relevant little value is
Okay.
that many people for the color green are colorblind, so they may not even see it, and they can run right smack into that square because it's
Okay.
like, you know. I'm sorry, guys. I had to put that out. I'm
You're
messing with
good.
Paul. No, I'm just messing with Paul. It's just I get a chance to
You-
do this.
I know. You're good. You're good. I love you. Okay. In the fourth,
Yeah.
it is shown that all which we clearly and distinctly perceive is true, and at the same time is explained wherein consists of nature of error, points that require to be known as well for confirming the preceding truths, as for the better understanding of those that are to follow. Basically, it's what I just gave as an example and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what we see, we distinctly perceive it to be true.
Yeah.
We see it, okay? I see this orange box sitting in front of me. I perceive it to be an orange box. And yet, the nature of error is that I'm only seeing one side of the box. I haven't looked at the entire box.
Yeah. Even when you speak about, the air or wind, you know,
Hmm.
can can people really see the wind? Or do they see the result that the wind has created upon the leaves that it has blown?
Right,
Right?
right.
So many times all we're seeing are some of the effects of yeah. Paul, I mean, some of these things really kind of, I mean, you could really break them down, but I think sometimes people will have to really take a look at it and question that themselves. I mean, how can we as humanity move forward in any compartment if we can't really take a look at the wind, right? If we can't look at those aspects and the elements of everything that
Mhm.
is around us, because
Yes,
there will be you will receive more information by observing nature
yes.
than any one of us could ever come forward and say, hey, have a V8 here, try this.
Right. Well,
Here's a
that's the
different way to look at something.
Yes, and that's the whole point behind becoming stoic is looking
Yeah.
at things in a different way, um, overcoming obstacles
Yeah.
and seeing things for what they are. Because if you can't see things for what they are,
Yeah.
and you're only going to say, "Well, this is the way I want to see it,"
Yes.
then you're missing out on a whole lot.
Okay, well, Paul, here's a perfect example. You just made a really great statement about seeing things of how they are, but that's how they are presenting to you, right? So what if I just get really upset with you and just like say, and I'm just gonna punch you in the nose because you are not understanding what I'm defending, and so all those emotional components go up, and we get frustrated and angry and upset because we're not both in the same bucket, right? And so that part of stoicism is that part of being able to governance those emotional components where we're not activated to taking some idiotic action like me punching Paul in the nose or Paul coming over and going, Shadow Fox, whack. It just really it allows us a breath so that we can take all it is timing, just a breath, so that we can maybe get our equilibrium before perhaps we answer, before
Right.
we actually make a decision. The worst time to make a decision is when you're either, you know, uh, very highly elevated, very excited, even in joy or laughter or whatever, and
Hmm.
also when you're very, very low and blue and like. nobody loves you, and I'm gonna go eat some sloppy, slimy worms and all of this stuff. And that's my mother used to say that. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yes.
my party, and I'll cry if I like to. And I'm gonna go eat some sloppy, slimy worms. Thank you very much.
Diana sent me a comment. What about people who were told their entire lives that green is orange?
Yeah,
Well, the reality is here's
that's what's happened.
hold on. Here's where words have no meaning and yet all meaning. Okay, because whatever word you put on this color, whether it be green, whether it be orange, the color is the color. Whatever it is, it simply is. Okay. Now, we as people in our teachings, in our learnings, in our everyday life, if you were told that green is orange and you grew up believing that, green is orange, then you're going to come across people that are going to go, no, 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 that's green. That's green. That's green. No,
You know,
that's green. So
Paul.
you then have to sit back and go, how come everybody is telling me that this orange is green? Maybe I need to look into this and find out why, because maybe I was told something incorrectly.
Well, here's another aspect, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Omnipresence, God, Allah. They're different words. You can go to any language. Take French. I'm sorry, I can't pull out the name of what the word for the cup is. What is the word for cup in French? What
Mm-hmm.
is it in Polish? Czech.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What do we call a cup in Spanish or
Mm-hmm.
German? It's still a cup,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it is described, or the tone or the resonance from the different languages. Is it the same thing or is it not? So there you cannot take a look at a coin and only see the coin as the edge. You're going to have one side and the other. You're going to have the absolute opposite ends, right? You got picture with a face, and then you got a picture of a tail or a wing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got the head and the ass.
Yep.
You have to be able to take a look on both things, but sometimes we we vie for that terminology. And again, because why are we doubting that Allah is not God, or is that the God to me, or the God to you?
Mm-hmm.
Does it not still represent a God or a Godhead?
Mm-hmm.
So if I claim an omnipresence, I got them all covered. Go for it. I got
Thank
them
you.
all covered. I mean, if
Exactly.
that's the case. But in my belief system is yes, I do believe there is kind of like maybe an original art, like an architect. Okay, was it the chicken or the egg? How long have people been asking that?
Right. And along with what you're saying, it's like, all right, I've read many variations
Hmm.
of the Christian Bible.
Yep.
Okay. For the most part, they're all very much the same. Okay. Some changes here and there. I've read the Quran,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
for the most part, Abraham, Moses,
Hmm.
all in there, Jesus, all in there. Muslim, Christian, the Muslim belief, the Christian belief, same God, same stories, some changes here and there, but it's still the same.
This
Um,
is not, but Paul, even though perhaps the major messaging, okay,
right.
behind just let's just those two,
Okay.
okay, all
Okay.
right, those two, the major messaging is perhaps love, kindness,
Yes.
what some people would consider the golden rule, so on and so forth. Okay,
Perfect.
with
Yes.
that stated, because people perhaps do not step in and start doubting or questioning or creating questions because they have um, doubted or questioned themselves, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Is this not how we actually birth fundamentalists, extremists? Because many of them are within that religious component, and yet
Yes.
because they believe so strongly that they have to defend a position, and their position is I believe it, so everybody else has to, or I'm going to make your life miserable.
Right. No, you're absolutely correct. The fundamentalist, as you said, the extremist. You have to believe as I do, or you know, there's hell to pay.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah.
When the reality is that they don't realize that they all believe in this, like you had worded it, the same omnipresence.
Yeah.
And whether you go into Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Confucianism, a lot of these philosophies and thought processes all come back to being the same. So why do we have to insist that ours is the one?
I know exactly. Well, and that's just it. Now think about this. Um, Parents have 2 children, 4 children, 20 children.
Mm-hmm.
What? You love one more? You're gonna fight for one. You're gonna fight for if they're in an argument. Is it you're really gonna take a side? Perhaps you may agree, like somebody may have been out of line. Maybe kind of had an erroneous thought, maybe wasn't quite right, but do you love one more or less? Perhaps you resonate with one more or less because either A, they're just like you, or they're just like your ex spouse that you can't stand. This is where it comes down to when you take a look at and break them down into the smaller components. Now, what I just said, bring that up to omnipresence, God, and Allah.
Mm-hmm.
What if a God is supposed to love one more than another? Is
There you
supposed to favor one more than another? Does it resonate? Does God resonate more with one or the other? I mean, these are those things that we can, in our minds, kind of start to question. And again, it comes right back
go.
within
Mm-hmm.
that stoicism and all of its components of the mind is the builder. you know it's our body is going to resonate to those thoughts, so we can get our emotions triggered and rah 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 says kumbah, I'm defending what I believe.
Right.
Well, question, why do you believe it?
And
Who
why do
told
you and
you?
why do you have to defend it?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Can we not walk within this world and recognize that I can honor you for having those beliefs that you have, and
Right.
we'll get along just fine. But the moment you come in and are going to, you know, force it down my windpipe, I'm sorry, but yeah, I kind of puke that stuff out, and I'll probably puke right on you.
Uh, Diana says, so is Stoicism a constant shift to a different perspective? Yes.
I would say
And
that.
and here's why.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
As you become stoic, what you're doing is you're learning that your emotions do not dictate
yep,
what you do.
yep.
You dictate
Dictate
what you do.
emotion. Yes.
The emotions allow you to feel things and
Hmm.
help give you an understanding,
Yep.
but you don't allow those emotions to make you do things.
Right. So,
Okay.
for instance, say I'm struggling with understanding fundamentalism, right? I can't wrap my head around it, right? And I'm being, people are trying to jam it down my windpipe, okay? They're placing their points across the board. Okay, and so I'm feeling that regurgitation coming up. It's triggering me. I can sit back and take a look. That's what stoicism is. Recognizing that those emotions are being triggered and then questioning why.
Boom.
Why are these emotions being triggered, and how can I present myself? How can I bring something through my words, actions, or deeds that can show kindness to my fellow human being? Because if someone else is on the other side, an opposing view, and they're angry and they're upset, they're not going to hear a word anybody says. When they're in those emotional feels, when they're upset, you can say anything the kindest way possible. You can approach the greatest, like the logical thing, like, I'm sorry, but guess what? It just doesn't add up. And yet they will not hear you. Why? Because they've allowed the emotional realm of them and their belief, and not only in their emotional component, but in their thoughts. And they are married. But if your emotions are out of whack, so are your thoughts.
Bingo.
I
Exactly.
mean, I don't know how much easier it is to make that, but again, whether we're looking at Stoicism, whether we're looking at ancient philosophy, whether we're looking at ancient wisdom, the one thing I can tell you, the laws within cosmic, universal, spiritual, and natural laws are always in balance and harmony. And so if we're getting triggered and we're having the feels, that means you're out of rhythm, you're out of balance, you're out of harmony. Period.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's go to the fifth one.
Okay.
In the fifth, besides the illustration of corporeal nature taken generically, a new demonstration is given of the existence of God, not free, perhaps, any more than the former, from certain difficulties, but of these the solution will be found in the replies to the objections. I further show in what sense it is true that the certitude of geometrical demonstrations themselves is dependent on the knowledge of God.
Hmm.
And this is where, again, Rene Descartes has to continue pushing his God, that no matter where you look, there are remnants of his God, that the reason why we all exist, the reason why we are, the reason why everything is what it is because of a God. Okay, most
Okay.
preferably his Christian God. So
Hmm.
this is where, in my opinion, he kind of gets lost in translation with himself. Because if you're going to set your
Yeah.
beliefs aside, you have
Hmm.
to recognize then that, okay, my God isn't the God. I have to see, are there gods? Could there be many gods? Could there be no God at all?
Hmm.
You know, and that relies
Well,
in your heart.
yeah, exactly. And again, within belief structures of Christianity in any capacity, and I'm just going to put this flat out. Religion follows a business structure, and if this gentleman is Christian, his God, okay, any major religion that moves forward is following a business plan. It is those experiences that are expressed that somebody else had, and everybody else is trying to define them and say what they mean. Um, and so, I think where he struggled was because those religious structures are so ingrained in us that, Christ did not teach Christianity. Christ taught laws, the energy of laws across the board. Take any single thing that he has ever quoted of stating in the Bible. I mean, if that's your belief structure in within the uh,
Right.
Christian thing, and you believe that every single thing that is written is exactly the way that it was stated, I mean, go for it. Um, but overall, when you take a look at the larger components of every single thing that Christ ever said, was based upon law. And if anyone is struggling, look to the law to find your answer. And we had said that before. Nature will reveal itself.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think that's what he kind of failed. That's why he was struggling. I mean, that's just me being the outsider here and just
Right.
hoping
No,
that
and
punk kidder.
believe it or not, I think you're more on base than what you realize. I mean, you should really get into Rene Descartes. There's a lot of good things that you can pick up from his line of thinking, where
Mm.
he's coming from and why. But you can also see where the faults lie. You
Oh
know,
my gosh, Paul, come on! I got so much going on in my head. You really asking me to read like put something else, another idea in there? Are you kidding me? How much room do I have?
more than you realize.
Oh, come on, Paul! I had to pull the rug out somewhere. Come on.
No, I know, I know. All right,
I'm
finally in the sixth.
sorry, guys.
Finally in the sixth. The act of the understanding is distinguished from that of the imagination. The
Wait, wait,
mark,
wait. Read that again. Seriously.
okay, the act of the understanding is distinguished from that of the imagination. The marks of this distinction are described. The human mind is shown to be really distinct from the body, and nevertheless to be so closely conjoined therewith as together to form, as it were, a unity.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Go for it, Paul. I had to. I'm serious. I mean, come on. This stuff can be fun too. You know,
Oh,
uh,
yes.
that first sentence. You that first sentence was like that would
Yes.
be something somebody could truly ponder upon.
Yes.
Oh my.
The act
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
the understanding
Yes.
is distinguished from that of the imagination. Okay. The marks of this distinction are described. The human mind is shown to be really distinct from the body. I agree with that. I agree with that. And nevertheless, to be so closely conjoined therewith as together inform, as it were, a unity. As we were talking about earlier, the hunger, the all these things that go with the
Yep.
mind and the body, okay? The whole of the errors which arise from the senses are brought under review, while the means of avoiding them are pointed out, and finally, all the grounds are adduced from which the existence of material objects may be inferred.
Yes. Well, if I could just make a little statement with this, and then maybe you can kind of like see where I'm trying to go with it. But when we take a look, and this what was it, number six?
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. I mean, this could be discussed for probably quite some time, actually. When we're looking at that aspect, because what was mentioned was that creative thought, that creative aspect, and being separate from it, or are we separate from it, or are we separate from any of it, or is it all tied together? Um, Men or humans, all of us, male, female, whatever. Um, we have three forms of thought processes. One is concrete, one is that of the mystical or creative aspect, and the other is the scientific aspect. Most people will have a dominant one, and the second one kind of pops in every once in a while. So it's kind of like we have the first one, concrete. My mind's made up. Don't confuse me with facts. The next one, which is that creative aspect, is like, oh, they got their head in the clouds. And the third one is prove it to me. The
Yes.
idea is in any of the components of whatever situation we're in, we're all going to go to the dominant one. That's how you're going to view and see any situation. And so when you spoke about that with the mind and coming together and then being separate from it, yeah, I think there's a big possibility that you are very, very separate from it because you have to, if in order to be able to have a greater view, an expanded view for what we spoke about a couple of those back, is that we have to have the all three of those components we can look at. And this is why I was saying there's three ways to see any situation, and three ways to describe it, and three ways to fix it, and three ways. So it's three times three times three times three. And that is the power of three. So if we're only seeing anything with the lens of prove it to me, the ships has already sailed.
Right.
It's gone, man. You even missed the premise of freaking buying a ticket for the ship. Okay,
Right.
but then when you say creatively, oh my gosh, there's a ship, and then we can sit there and say, oh my gosh, there's well, prove it to me. Well, you know what? I am so steadfast in where I am. I am gonna go down to the actual the dock, and I'm just damn well gonna see if there's a ship there. And so there's the part of that concrete of like, okay, well, I'm gonna go there. I am gonna be there. I'm gonna be right there, and I'm prove it to myself. But if you do not have the creative thought, you're never gonna see the boat. Because guess what? That boat is in the creative thought. It means it's in the etheric or the mystical, and you have to play to be able to get there. So either one of those two other thoughts are not going to combine for you to see the boat. Now I know I'm speaking in circles here, right, Paul? But the point being is that we are not disconnected. We choose to be disconnected because we choose not to see things in another way.
Right.
So did I just make a great big huge bubble here and like
No, no, you were actually
oh,
right on because what I wanted to point out is that sometimes, let's use your dock and boat example.
yeah, I like that.
Sometimes you're standing on the dock and the boat is right there. It's right there in
And
front of
people
you.
still sometimes won't see it.
And you still can't see it because you refuse
Yes,
to look.
yes. You
And if you're
refuse to
not
open up. You refuse to be accepting that it could possibly be there because you're looking so focused on prove it to me. I can't prove it to you. What was that movie? Oh, Paul, what was that movie with Harrison Ford? And he was wore the hat, and he was going after artifacts.
um
Oh, what the? Okay, well, anyway, there was
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
okay. It was that the segment or the whatever. Sorry, my mind's somewhere else. They were looking for the Holy Grail, right? And he's led into this arena, and there's a huge void, and there's a door on one side, and he's standing at the precipice. And according to all of those little clues that he was getting, it was stated to just, with faith, step out onto the ledge. There's no ledge there. How can you step on a ledge? Is it to the left? Is it to the right? Okay. Ah, well, let's throw some sand on it and see what happens. And then the sand is there, but you still do not see the bridge. So that's an actual portrayal, like in movie time, that somebody can go back and look and say, "Oh yeah, that's kind of what we're speaking about."
Yes.
We have to be able to question and not take ourselves so seriously and be obtuse.
Yes. If you come in from the north and you only see things from the north, then obviously you're going to miss everything from the south. And,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
the East and the West don't even exist.
yeah, yeah. Ohio's not real. So,
No,
um, there you go.
neither Florida either.
All right, everybody. I want to thank you for coming in, Shadow Fox, instead of Elizabeth. Elizabeth will be next week. We are going to delve into each one of these meditations and go in depth with them and break them down, break them apart, and look at them from every possible view that we can muster. I'm looking forward to people coming in into the comments and just analyzing it with us.
Hey,
I'm
I don't mind being a third down here. I can be that, hanging out up in the corner
Yeah,
watching you
yeah.
guys.
No, and you are most definitely welcome to come in as a guest and all that. Hopefully, I can also get Bryce in here and Benny and a few others and all that. I really want to, have a strong thought process on a lot of this because I want people to understand that if you continue on with just simply having a belief system and you're not willing to look at other systems or other ways of looking at systems, then you're going to be stuck right where you're at and you're not going forward. You might think you're going forward. You might think that you have all the answers. You might think that your way is the only way, but I can guarantee you, if you just take a moment,
Step on the ledge.
open your eyes, and believe in something a little different, you just might find a boat sitting out there where you thought there was none.
And you know what, Paul? There's a lot of people here. If people are feeling they just stepped out on that ledge and they're still unsure of themselves, come here. Come to this show because there's going to be, many, many topics coming forward to be able to help with that.
Yep.
We're
Yep.
not going to leave you hanging.
Exactly. Thank you, Shadow
Thank you.
Fox.
Thank you for letting me. I'm glad I was able to be. What was that? A punter?
Remember, everyone, be happy, be kind, and may good things come your way.
Oh.
Meow.